this special last once a week. How's that one feel?
Yeah, we're pretty moved by that one. Obviously, coming out of last week, where you can throw up all adjectives to describe what it was and what it wasn't, and I think it went against the grain of what we'd been doing. We'd created some momentum in our season. North Melbourne really challenged us off the bye, but we were able to get that result. We came out of Adelaide probably scratching our heads a little bit. You know, the boys have been tremendous, and so it was a big challenge this afternoon. And talk about adversity, and then even losing Adam before the game, and then just the even spread of contribution. And I think our first quarter we fumbled our way through it, and we created some chances and we didn't take them, and then Carlton, you know, with their prowess up forward, and they didn't need many opportunities to capitalise, even though they created enough. But for the boys to keep their nerve at quarter time and recognise what they were doing well, and stick to their guns and persevere through the things that we're going to get better. It's a pretty outstanding result in the end, and so, you know, hopefully we can do a little bit with it. But I sit here as the senior coach of the footy club, with so many other people contributing to helping the players. Just tremendously proud of what the boys were able to do this afternoon. It was a great victory for the club.
You talk about even spread. Michael was just extolling the virtues of Patrick Cripps, who really put the team on his back in the last quarter. How special a player is Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, who was mighty today after a shaky start?
Yeah, Mara's a young man full of promise, and we've seen some of his brilliance, and he's had some outstanding games against genuinely good opposition. You know, he's played some of his best games against teams previously in other years as well, against the teams that are at the top, the pointy end of the ladder. And Mara came out of Adelaide like some of his teammates. He was searching for the answers for himself and wanting to produce something better. And, you know, even in the first quarter, we needed to pay attention to what Jacob Wiedering was doing. He was intercepting too much football, and he was largely off the back of Jamarra. And so we needed to make some adjustments, and Mara needed to think about his game in a technical way, around some negating and some halving that's okay. And look, Jacob still played a really telling game, I think, for them as a backman. But as the game went on, you know, Cody took up a bit of that responsibility and probably interfered with his game a little bit, but it sort of helped us get the game on our terms, and then Mara started to flourish, you know, and to see him and Westy hit the scoreboard and some of those goals, you need a little bit of brilliance, you know, to be able to beat anyone, and for all the hard work and to play a forward half game like we did this afternoon. We didn't capitalise on it, you know, 2 goals 7 or something from the high 30 forward half turnovers. It's not a great strike rate, but at least our pressure was keeping it in there. We ended up kicking 3 goals from 450 stoppages, kicked 4 goals from centre bounce. You know, stoppage in the end was a big thing for us. And I thought Tim, who hasn't necessarily had his best games against the Blues over the journey, I thought he was tremendous, and Sam was a great support act for him in the ruck. I sit here as a spokesperson for the club, pretty proud of what we all saw today.
You mentioned Jamarra sort of turned his game around at quarter time. Did you speak to him at quarter time, or was that something that he sort of just turned around on his own? How did that sort of pan out?
Yeah, well, Matty Spanger coaches our forwards and our offence, and Matt had talked to him, and, you know, that big part of what our coaches do is staying level and supporting the players emotionally during the game. And yeah, I mean, my message was exactly what I said earlier. Is, hey, we're doing a lot right. We're down on the scoreboard, but we committed to certain things before the game, and we were seeing them. We weren't capitalising as far as the score goes. So, you know, I mean, Matt, but it's up to the player in the end, and I think, you know, what we don't want are extremes. You know, I mean, you love the extremes when you play outrageously well and you have a telling victory, but you don't want the extreme that we saw last week where we really troughed, like we really dipped in what we're capable of. That, regardless of who's in the team, all our players are capable. So that's what we're not. We don't want that outlier that's right down there. If we don't go so well, it's still got to be closer to the midline. So yeah, it's a big one for us when in the scheme of the season and everything hangs in the balance, and you make your choices. You know, you feel quite alone when you go through some adversity, but the boys really managed it well.
You speak of, you know, no troughs and wanting to keep things going. Big one next week against the Cats.
Yeah, they don't.
Down there.
They don't shrink the challenges, and we had a good experience down there last year when we needed to put our best foot forward, even though it didn't result in a finals appearance. History is history, and that's part of the thinking and the psychology of it too. Is you only get better tomorrow if you forget about yesterday, and so that we can't be too satisfied when we wake up tomorrow because of exactly what you say. We've got the Cats down the highway, and you know we look forward to it. I was at the game last night. They found a really strong form line, and they've shuffled some roles around, and they're always formidable. But we'll look forward to it.
There's a bit of focus on your undermanned defence. The two Carlton monsters look ominous early. How proud are you of blokes like Bailey Dale, Buku, Rory Lobb? Just everyone stuck at their task and was really impressive in that second half.
Yeah, they were. And Bailey played one of the, probably at the risk of drawing attention to him, which, I mean, they ended up really trying to negate him in the second half, but he probably played one of the best high defensive first halves that you'd ever see a player play today, this afternoon. He was significantly responsible for helping us gain back momentum on the scoreboard. His defensive play was tremendously influential, and then and he used the footy well. And those boys, they couldn't come off. I mean, Buku was coming off with, I think Charlie might have come off once, and Lobby came off once with Big Harry. And Daniel Pratt, who coaches our back line, and the messaging to our backs was to play to assist them, to help each other. But what they were getting their goals frequently from our half-forward line when they got through those layers, and they got us out the back. And you see the athleticism, the timing, the highest point marking, and sometimes it's just too hard to defend.
Yeah.
And I mean, we squandered some opportunities, but and obviously Charlie missed some, but I think by and large it was probably tit for tat with that.
And the numbers were pretty even, but just a word on your midfield, because apart from Cripps, it looked like you had your blokes in the midfield had a pretty good day out overall.
Yeah, well, I think we lost stoppage, we lost clearance, but they pressured well, and to kick 4 goals from centre bounce, that's and to limit their impact there, that's a really good result for us.
Well, that's the game, isn't it?
Well, it's a big part of the game.
Yeah.
It's a territory. It's your first look at territory, and they're not free hits, but they're great opportunities to score. So if you can stifle theirs and capitalise on yours, that's a big say. And the kids, Riley Sanders, Harvey Gallagher playing through there. Westy went in there a little bit, and working with obviously Richo, who's still learning to play as an inside mid. He's doing some things extremely well, and then other things he's picking up the bit. And I think when Patrick really started to influence in the last quarter, Libba had spent a fair bit of time on him through different stages of the game, and we had Libba on the bench for a spell. He needed it. So we needed to be better at stopping that, and in the end we did. We tackled him, we got some free kicks, and obviously the skip up, the mainstay in there. So that blend, and Truck Williams and Caleb Poulter and Lockie McNeil. I thought he was a great sort of third wheel on that with the wingers, and as the game wore on, here's some really influential defensive play. So we could probably go through the whole team. That's the way I'm feeling at the moment. I'd love to give them all a pat on the back, but as I said, it's important we wake up tomorrow morning, be satisfied, but then I think pretty quickly about not being in the situation we were after the Port Adelaide game.
With huge respect to your captain, he wasn't so as prominent as what Cripps was. It wasn't a Marcus Bontempelli didn't win you that game. He still was very important, but it was a lot of other blokes got the job done. That's got to feel good too.
Yeah, he was strong. He played his role, and I think that's exactly what you're alluding to. Everyone played their role. You could go through, Lockie Bramble, Nick Coffield's just back. He turned a couple over early, but then he settled and made it simple. And Joel Frazier, another first-year player. He had some really good moments in the back end. You could keep going, but Riley West. I thought our small forwards compared to last week with Riley and Vanders. I mentioned Lockie McNeil, but then Flea Waitman, who's missed a little bit of footy. Their defensive game really came to the fore this afternoon, and it was great to see Riley capitalise and hit the scoreboard. But it was just a terrific spread of influence from the boys that played. So much so that there was a rhythm to the game for us, and from that, we didn't make the sub. We didn't bring Riley Garcia on. A couple of the boys were pretty fatigued in the end, but sometimes pulling that lever can just throw you off kilter a little bit, and everyone was, as much as there was fatigue in the game, they were playing their role so well that we just kept our powder dry there. And so Riley's he's been part of a winning team, but he hasn't set foot on the ground, unfortunately for him, but he's processed that pretty well.
Do you have any injuries other than Adam?
I think we're okay, which is a nice change.
How bad's Adam?
He just had a tight calf, and look, Adam's had bits and pieces here and there over the journey, and he warmed up, still there. We just thought we just can't take a risk. So hopefully, he might be okay next week. We'll wait and see.
Can you elaborate a bit on Cody's game? You mentioned him briefly before, but it felt like he didn't get the goals that he might have had in other weeks today, but he was really important, especially in curbing Weeder into influence in the first half.
Yeah, he was, and look, I think what happened was he overdid it a little bit, and he got a couple of free kicks against him for flying early, which were sort of unrealistic attempts, and it was just his effort to make sure that Jacob didn't mark the footy. We ended up pulling the pin on that in the last quarter in particular, and Flea was really wound up and caught up in that. So. And look, he because he's missed a little bit of footy, he was grinding away in the end, but he played a really selfless role. Yep. Thanks, everyone.